Washington, D.C., January 1910. 2,000 trees that a gift from the other side of the world have just arrived on American soil. Within 3 weeks, every single one will be burned to ash. In 1885, a 29-year-old travel writer named Eliza Scidmore stepped off a ship in D.C.
Her brother George worked there for the U.S. Consular Service.
And through him, Eliza had seen something most Americans of her era never would. Entire crowds gathered.
Back home, she looked at the raw, reclaimed mudflats along the Potomac River, an ugly stretch of dumped fill-dirt sand, and she saw exactly what should replace it. Since they had to plant something in that great stretch of raw, reclaimed ground by the riverbank Og, they might as well plant the most beautiful thing in the world, the Japanese cherry tree.
So she walked into the office of the Superintendent of Public Buildings and Grounds and made her case.
She was turned away. One superintendent worried that boys would climb the trees and break the branches, and that policemen would need to patrol the park day and night just to protect them. So Eliza waited, and when a new superintendent took the post, she tried again.
And when that one left, she tried again after that.
For 24 years, this became a quiet ritual of rejection.
Every new official heard the same pitch. Almost every one of them said no. Amiable army officers lent a weary ear to the tale of the Japanese cherry blossom.
And the future fairyland, but none grew excited or was convinced.
24 years is a long time to be told no, long enough for most people to let a dream quietly die.
Ants and the future fairyland, but none grew excited or was convinced.
Fairchild had quietly planted Japanese cherry trees on his Maryland estate to see if they would survive winter.
The following year, Eliza wrote directly to incoming First Lady Helen Herron Taft, who knew Japan's gardens firsthand.
Thank you very much for your suggestion about the cherry trees.
Word reached Tokyo almost immediately. A Japanese chemist in New York made an offer no one expected.
2,000 cherry trees, Perrin. A gift from the city of Tokyo, arranged through its municipal leadership.
The trees were carefully cut, packed, and loaded for their long voyage across the ocean. Riding across the snowy continent by steam locomotive, they finally arrived in Washington in early January. Workers unloaded the massive crates into cold storage facilities beneath cloudy winter skies.
For nearly 2 weeks, everything seemed to be moving smoothly according to plan.
Then, a dedicated team of government agricultural inspectors arrived to take a closer look. What they uncovered stopped the entire diplomatic project dead in its tracks. The young saplings were severely infested, riddled with tiny destructive scale insects throughout. The roots were compromised, carrying diseases that could devastate American orchards for a generation.
The urgent report moved swiftly through official channels, reaching the desk of the American president.
On January 28, 1910, official written approval was granted on the decree.
The national leader sat in somber silence, sealing the fate of 2,000 trees.
On January 28, 1910, the president gave his approval.
24 years of persistence. Months of diplomacy between two nations.
Gone in an afternoon of fire.
It should have ended the entire dream, and very possibly a delicate friendship between two nations along with it. The Secretary of State moved quickly, sending word expressing regret.
But in Tokyo, the response wasn't outrage. It was resolve.
They didn't walk away from the gift. They doubled down on it. 3,020 trees, grafted with far greater care.
On March 26, 1912, the second shipment arrived.
This time, the trees were healthy. Perfect, even.
The next morning, on the bank of the tidal basin, there was no parade.
Just two women standing at the edge of the water.
One woman took a spade in her hands. Her companion took the other.
Together, they broke ground.
And planted the first 2 Yoshino cherry trees. Rooting a quiet partnership into the cold March ground.
Off to the side, watching quietly, stood the woman who had spent 24 years being told no.
By a long line of men who saw only a muddy riverbank, where she saw a field of blossoms.
2 small trees, bare branches, no blossoms yet. Just 2 thin trunks, freshly planted.
And a First Lady's gloved hands, still dark with soil.
A vision 24 years in the making, finally set in ground.
Holding the quiet promise of endless springs to come.
And the riverbank would never be the same.
It began in 1885 with a traveler's photographs from Japan.
And a vision of cherry blossoms lining the nation's capital.
Washington in the late 1880s was a city of mud and unpaved roads.
Year after year, she waited in official corridors.
Every petition met with bureaucratic refusal.
Yet through 2 decades of silence, her resolve never wavered.
In 1907, an ally emerged in a Maryland orchard,
proving the species could endure the American winter.
A single letter to the White House opened the door.
An endorsement from the First Lady changed everything.
Diplomats and scientists united behind the vision.
The city of Tokyo answered with a gesture of historic goodwill.
When the first shipment arrived in January 1910,
Catastrophe struck before a single tree could be set in ground.
invasive pests threatened American agriculture.
The decision reached the highest office.
2,000 saplings reduced to ash along the riverbank. What seemed like a tragic end became a turning point.
Both nations responded not with anger, but with deeper resolve.
Preparations began immediately for a second, pristine shipment.
Over 3,000 trees were grafted and cultivated with exact precision.
Crossing the Pacific once more, arriving in March 1912. Healthy, disease-free, and ready for planting. On a quiet morning, without public spectacle.
The ground was turned, and history was quietly planted.
A symbol of enduring friendship, rooted along the tidal basin.
For the woman who persevered for 24 years.
The muddy riverbank was transformed at last. Thin trunks in cold spring dirt, holding the promise of endless springs to come.